These few tips will instantly make your aim better and will also create effective habits, so that way you're always improving past this video. So with that being said, let's get started. Just for a little background, my name is Madness. I've been a professional Apex Legends player for the last 3 years, and I'm going to be taking that last 3 years of experience to help you improve your aim today. And with that experience, I'm going to give you one tip that will instantly improve your aim. Check this out. What is that? What is this? If you're not using one of these, you're f***ing trolling. I'm just kidding. Let's actually get into the real tips. So the first step in improving your aim in really any kind of shooter is determining what sensitivity works best for you. And a lot of people neglect this, but it is probably the sole most important thing in being a really good aimer. So for reference, these are my settings, and this is what almost every other professional player on mouse and key uses as well. And I would really say that my sensitivity is a good reference point to start at. So the reason I and many others use this specific sensitivity is it creates a really nice, well-rounded balance around it being slow enough to accurately and fluidly track targets, but fast enough that you can still effectively flick and switch targets with ease. All right, so the main component that makes slow sensitivity beneficial is when you need to make micro adjustments, otherwise known sometimes as micro flicks. So if I'm aiming right here onto this target, and I can see that I'm slightly off, you can tell how fluid and control I have over making that simple adjustment onto any sort of target that I feel like I need to. I can be exactly precise every single time and make super easy adjustments while having a solid amount of control of the mouse. So if your sense is too high, it's really hard to fluidly transition targets here because you'll just be kind of bouncing around. So again, my sensitivity is really good for micro adjusting, but again, it's not too slow where I can't, spin around and move very freely and have control. It's a great balance between both worlds. This allows you to be very fluid with your aim, with your movements, everything that you need to be with the aim, especially when you're needing to be moving. If it's too fast, it's hard to be fluid. So now that we've set the foundation of everything with your sensitivity, it's time to move on to the next thing, which is going to be learning and understanding spray patterns. So if you don't know, a spray pattern is the gun's natural recoil if you're not making any sort of movement to it whatsoever. So for example, if I left click and don't move my mouse whatsoever with this gun, you can see it moves in a precise pattern. Different with this gun as well. It's sort of similar, but it's a little bit more exaggerated. Every automatic gun has a specific spray pattern in Apex, and on screen I will show you guys exactly what every single one is. Because if I go into this target, I left click and move off and don't move my mouse, you can see I did no damage. But if I'm countering that recoil pattern, you can see here, I'm able to one clip super easily, consistently, without any problem at all, by countering that recoil pattern. While it may seem confusing, this skill is actually like very important to master very early on. Sooner you get the spray patterns down, the way faster you're gonna become extremely dominant in the game. So now that we have our sensitivity and learn the spray patterns, it's time to put those together and learn how to track a target. Tracking is essentially a combination of those two things that we previously talked about, which is why we made sure to cover them first. So a very important thing to determine is what mouse grip works for you. There's several different types of mouse grips. Personally as well, I use a Razer Death Adder V2 Pro. I know a lot of pros use like the final mouses and they gotta get them on release. I've been using this mouse my entire pro career. While it's sort of light, it's also just heavy enough to where there's some resistance, and personally that's what I prefer. So of those mouse grips, you can try them out. I personally just use a palm grip. So I'm going to show you guys simple ways that you can improve your tracking within Apex Legends if you're not using like an aim trainer or something. And basically you want to track and shoot this target. So I would say you should be shooting for 300 damage each clip spray. And to show you what I mean, this would be a 300 plus spray. So tracking the target accurately enough to do at least 300 or more damage. If you're doing that much, I would consider that you're understanding tracking relatively well. So again, you can switch up the scenario to make it harder. You can get super close, so that way the tracking is a little bit more fast and difficult and requires you to actually move your wrist and your arm. Also, for those that might be curious, I do recommend using your arm and wrist to aim. Don't use one or the other. I would learn to use both of them for certain situations. Arm is very good for making bigger adjustments that you feel like you need to make, and wrist is super good to do short distance and short little adjustments. But in my opinion, the best way is to learn to use both effectively. So when it's like right from here to here in front of me, I'm making wrist adjustments. And then once it goes past that point, I am using my whole arm to make the rest of the movement. So once you feel like you've mastered that, the step up would be including a strafe in those sprays. Strafing is about as equally important as tracking is, especially in Apex where it's super movement driven. So I'd really learn to have a good and effective strafe in Apex. If you want a more in-depth guide on an effective strafe as well as just movement, feel free to let me know in the comments below if you would want something like that. So now you want to make sure you're strafing while maintaining accuracy on your target. So I would say do this for like maybe 5-10 minutes or until you feel comfortable enough. Aiming for that 300 damage mark is very important because it allows you to gauge your progress and see if you're becoming more consistent. So the last and final thing that you want to practice is taking all the things you've done so far, but now also adding crouching. Adding crouching to your strafes makes it even harder for people to hit you, so it's very important that you learn how to do this as well. So now you put all your practice together and just add crouching to it. Again, making sure that you're hitting 300 plus damage every single time you unload a mag. So now that you've mastered those things, it's time to take that skill and hop into some pubs or ranked matches. In your actual fights, make sure you're focusing on doing everything that we talked about: strafing, crouching, and effectively aiming and tracking your target. If you still don't feel quite ready, I've got a solution for you. So we're at a point in Apex where there's so many different types of aim trainers out there. You have Kovacs, you have Aim Labs, you have Apex Aim Trainer on Steam, and just recently, this is probably the best out there released for the game, which is going to be called R5 Aim Trainer. I've tried several different aim trainers, and out of all the ones I've tried so far, I feel like this has created the most realistic scenarios for me and allowed me to actually translate a lot of improvement that I feel like I've been making. So this aim trainer has so much to offer as far as gun selection, customizability, really the ability to practice almost anything that you would possibly think of wanting to practice. And it even allows you to go in and change every single attachment to whatever you might want. But the easiest one I would start out on is a simple strafing dummy. So here you see you can easily practice against a strafing target. This creates a realistic scenario using actual hitboxes and real weapon mechanics. So you're able to actually practice with the weapons that you want to improve with. So if you feel like you've learned something new or want more guides in the future, make sure to subscribe to the channel, as I will continue to give you pro level advice to become a better player. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you soon.